I've been playing pickleball since 2013 and the game has changed a ton, but one thing that's remained constant has been the dink. Over those 10 years, I've hit millions of dinks, and I'm gonna give you my top 5 tips for turning your dink from a liability into an asset of your game. Those 5 things are your ready position, keeping your paddle in your vision, doing the bare minimum with your swing, when to play offense and when to play defense, as well as keeping a strong wrist position. First off, you can't hit good dinks without a good paddle, which is why I partnered up with ProXR to create the Zane Navratil signature 14mm paddle. It's known for its world-class spin, and my YouTube subscribers receive 10% off and free shipping when they go to zanepickleball.com and use the code ZNPSubscriber. Link in the description, check it out. I'm here with Fran Vitar, and we're gonna work on the first of the 5 things, ready position. The first thing that we wanna do is bring our ready position to a consistent spot. If you followed my channel for a little bit, you know that I love the ball slap drill. So what we wanna do with our ready position is we wanna be in a neutral spot, not favoring the backhand a ton. So we wanna be a little bit more towards the center, but we also wanna be up, nice and high. We're thinking about this ready position extending from our chin here. And if we start our ready position from the same place every single time, it's gonna make our dink shot way more consistent. Just last week, I posted a video with Johnson Colo where we adjusted my ready position to actually be a little bit lower. But generally, I like to see this ready position higher rather than lower, at least above the level of the waist. So if you guys remember the ball slap drill to work on our ready position, every time we dink, we're gonna pin this ball right back to our ready position. So what this does is this gives you a visual cue, an audible cue, as well as something that you can feel to get that ready position in the same exact spot every time. And if we start from the same spot every time, our shots are gonna be a lot more consistent. So my number 1 tip for improving your dink is actually improving your ready position. The second thing is a strong wrist position. So if our wrist is down or broken, if you hit the ball slightly off center, the paddle's gonna feel like it's rotating around in your hand. But there's an easy fix for this. So what Fran is gonna do is he's just going to try and pull this paddle without moving his arm back towards his face. And when we're in this position, if I slap his paddle, it's staying nice and firm there. So if my wrist is broken here, I'm just not gonna be as consistent with some of my shots. Without squeezing the grip tighter, I'm gonna pull the paddle back towards my face, and we're gonna feel like we have more stability in that wrist. So the next big tip is keeping your paddle in your vision. If your paddle gets out of your vision, you're taking too big of a swing. And at the amateur level, I see a lot of people taking big swings on shots where they're really just trying to hit soft and into the kitchen. You don't need that big swing. In fact, it's going to hurt your dink shot, not help it. Even some of the most aggressive dinkers in pickleball, I think of Thomas Wilson on the forehand side or Connor Garnett on the backhand side, they still don't have big swings where the paddle is getting out of their vision. You can generate so much pace from out in front and just a quick acceleration. So if you can keep your paddle in your vision, it's gonna prevent over swinging at some of these dink shots and you're gonna be way more consistent. The next important tip is understanding when you can be offensive with your dinking and when you have to be defensive with your dinking, because not all shots are the same. If my opponent hits a good, tough shot to me, I can't try and be super offensive with my dink. I need to play it a little bit safer. On the flip side, I don't want to just be making my dink shots. I want to do something with them and cause a pop-up for my opponent. So you got to know the time to play offensive dinks or defensive dinks. So here, I'm gonna give myself a little bit more arc and trying to put this short in the kitchen when Fran is pushing me off of that line and giving me difficult shots. Right now, I'm hitting that more defensive dink. Now, if I have an easier ball, we're gonna flip. So now, Fran, you're gonna be aiming in the front half of that kitchen. You're hitting a more defensive dink, and I'm gonna be trying to dictate with a more offensive dink. It's important to understand that you can't aim your shot 2 inches over the net every single time. If your opponent has you in trouble, you want to give yourself a little bit more margin for error and hit one of those defensive dinks. If you have an easy ball and you're set up perfectly, you can be a little bit more offensive, try and push your opponent around, and maybe aim a little bit lower over the net. But understanding when you can be offensive and when you can be defensive is huge for your pickleball game. So the last tip that I have for effective dinking is actually doing what I did in high school, which is the bare minimum. So the more you have going on in your technique, the more difficult it is to execute consistently. We want to do the absolute bare minimum to try and get this ball over the net while we're building consistency. Once we're super consistent, then we can start to maybe add a little bit more. But to start off, we want to do the bare minimum on our dinks. Fran and I are gonna dink a little bit, and I'm going to move my paddle as little as possible to try and get this ball to go over the net. The bare minimum. Once I get confident and consistent doing the bare minimum, you'll see that some of the pro players and some of the top level players, we do start to add a little bit more swing, a little bit more push, maybe a little bit of topspin on some of these shots, but we can't do any of that until our dinking technique is really sound and consistent. Once I get the bare minimum done, then I can start to add a little bit more to my dink technique. After playing pickleball for over 10 years and hitting millions of dinks, those are my top 5 things to work on to help get your dink to an elite level. If you think that your dink is already at an elite level, I challenge you to check out this video right here and see if you can do that challenge, the world's hardest dinking drill. If you can, you're ready to graduate from Zane Navratil Pickleball University. The side of your paddle and you feel like it's shifting around in your, I'm gonna start that over.
Floppy paddle.
Floppy paddle, flaccid paddle, can't be having that.